You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Dragging and kicking and screaming, have we got the doc, Dr. James Stewart, has come in. He said, what, do you need me in again? I said, we need you in, Doc, because I get asked a lot of questions about he's not allowed to call it marijuana oil. He's got to call it plant-based nutrition or some bullshit he'll tell us in a minute. But I've asked him because I have a number of questions for him, and I don't want to give out advice when we're not medical people, Don. And I've got a couple of anecdotal things to tell him about something that happened with the marijuana oil. And I want to ask him also about a person I indirectly know. Now, Doc, just screw it. Doc's microphone has fallen off the stand.
Geez, if had my microphone... Had my microphone fallen off the stand, you would have been swearing and fucking and doing
like I
it.
am now.
Yeah, no, you're not. You're so nice
Doc,
and pleasant.
undo the screw at the bottom.
You're
open
a
it
psycho.
out. Push it in.
Yeah.
Open it out.
I'm trying to.
Now push it in hard. No, push the. That's right. Now do it up tight. Holy shit! So Don and I have.
Okay, let's go.
We're going.
Morning, fellas. Morning, everyone.
Yeah, but I'd like to know your questions because I think they could be very interesting.
And Fiona Byrne, Phoebe rang in or texted in and said she can't make it in today.
I had some topics to bring up with her.
Well, you can bring. I'll pretend I'm Phoebe.
Okay.
I can answer them.
Okay.
So the doc is here.
We might include the doctor in this.
Just a minute.
Do you only get me in because people are requesting me to come in? I thought you guys liked actually having me in here.
No one's requested you to come in. I'm requesting you to come in because I don't want to have to fumble through answering questions about marijuana oil or what you call it, but we get asked a lot because a lot of people are taking it, and we'll get onto the cost of it in a minute as well. Cool. So welcome, Doc.
Thanks, guys.
So just stand by or join in if you like. What were you going to ask Phoebe?
I was going to ask her about...
I can handle it.
Okay. The boys that I work with, we have lunch in Boundary Road, Dramana.
Doesn't matter where you have it.
Well, we do. We sit down there and we watch the passers-by as we're having lunch.
Another big day, Don?
It is a big day, and we get into very philosophical discussion about women. Last week it was about the fascination with boobs, both men and women. I asked the doc in Sydney about his opinion. The other one is clothing. That women wear clothing that really doesn't leave much to your imagination. It's this tight stuff. I was wondering if men were to wear Speedos, how would that go down?
What, at the shopping centre having a coffee?
Well, yes, when you're going down the shopping centre or they wear this tight lycra thing, shorts and tops and whatever else. Now, what happens if men wear baggy, jeans or whatever? What happens if men got a little bit...
Well, in the day, Don, you used to walk around with open-neck trousers, so I don't know that it's much different. You used to do a lot of advertising in that regard. You just walk there with your fly open, hoping people would see you swinging in the breeze. That's what you used to do. So wearing Speedos at a city...
How did you go in your Speedos at Point Lonsdale?
How did I go in them?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Well, exactly what I just said. Parading along the beach with your surfboard and your Speedos.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but cold water and surf has a deleterious effect on getting a hard-on, Don.
No.
It makes it, in fact, you can't even
would
find
govern,
it half
it
the
would
time.
govern the size of the appendage in the Speedos. So I just asked.
I just said that.
Because coming off Bass Strait, it'd be very cold at Point Leo.
I just said
so
that.
I just said, how did
you not hear the answer I gave you?
But you never answered my question. How did you get...
Well, because you would be wearing Speedos if you went into the surf, and as soon as you hit the cold water, that would have a deleterious... Do you know what that word means?
No.
It'd have an adverse effect on you getting a hard-on because,
So
you heard of putting a
walked
cold spoon on your... What are we talking about? Now, we've got
We're
the dog
talking
here.
about Speedos.
We've got the dog
Well,
here.
and advertising. Why can't men advertise like women?
So why would men want to sit there in Speedos?
What did you wear, Doc, when you went marathon running? Tight shorts or baggy shorts?
I had tight shorts underneath with baggy shorts over the top, so I had compressions on for my thighs and to stop my chafing.
Why didn't you just wear the why did you wear the shorts over the top of your leggings? Why couldn't you have just worn the leggings like Matt Shervington?
Well, I could have, yeah. Yeah, probably would have looked a bit like Matt Shervington, the old swinging away there.
God almighty, Don. So you wanted to ask Phoebe...
about clothing.
Well, I'll pretend I'm Phoebe, all right?
No, we've done the topic.
What do you mean, Don? What are you saying, that men would have sit there in Speedos? You're sillier than... Sam said you were silly, but I'm starting to believe him. What are you talking about? Why would men sit there in Speedos? Well, Fiona, women like to advertise. Yes, but I don't advertise. I wear very sensible clothing. Yeah, how would
That
this
hat she
stupid
wears,
conversation go?
that hat, you know that hat she wore to the
What
cup?
else did you want to ask her if she was in?
I had a lot of other things.
Well, give us one more.
I'll give her a ring on the phone afterwards and ask her.
A ring on the phone?
Yeah,
That's
well,
redundant.
That's what I do.
Just a ring it'll do.
I'll give her a ring.
Yep. I told the doc about the parrot who swallowed the Viagra. He guffawed for 4 minutes.
Oh, yeah, but he's got a... He's
The
only
parrot
try-
said,
he's only
do you
trying
know
to
how
appease
hard
you."
it is to prise the legs of a frozen chicken apart?
That's very
He
good.
thought it was humorous, Don. You didn't even get it, you dumbass. You ass hat.
Can I ask the doctor a sensible question? Doctor,
Yes.
now you are a little bit different because you are advocating marijuana oil.
I'm not advocating
So can I...
it.
What?
I'm not advocating it.
Oh, okay. You're prescribing it? Oh, anyway, I won't go there.
Okay.
So you think a little bit differently.
Yes.
Now, I was watching a thing, and there's a number of parts to it. I've only got past the first part. It's about psychedelic drugs.
Yep.
And the drug, or the first episode, was on a thing called LSD.
Sure.
Developed in Switzerland, I think in the 1940s.
Yep. By Albert
They
Hoffman.
didn't... What?
By Albert Hoffman.
Okay.
Yep, there's a
So
thing
they
called
really
bicycle
didn't
day.
have a... I don't know why it came about, but they started using it or trying to find applications for it.
Yep.
And one of them was that they were doing a little bit of testing on the mental side or giving it to people, and they were starting to have...
What's the question?
They're starting to get a result from it.
Yeah.
Now, why... and I went on a little bit further. Is it because... the CIA got it. They were testing it in America, and they've outlawed it. Nixon came up, and because they were using it in the community, or did the CIA release...
And the question is...
Shut up!
So the reason it
Why
was...
don't they use it now? Because Nixon's got up and banned the thing.
Yeah.
And now, why aren't they using it? Because they were going down that path in the 1940s. Now, they had success
Yep.
or getting results, and there's mushrooms and whatever else I saw in the other episodes. So I'm only part one. Can you answer me about
Yes.
LSD, please?
Yep. So this is another passion of mine, along with plant medicine, is the other things
hang on.
like...
What do you mean a passion of yours?
So I'm actually involved with the psychedelic community and doing trials.
Really?
There's trials at the hospital going on now with MDMA and psilocybin, which is mushrooms. And because we are trying to get them to be able to be used by doctors straight away.
Really?
So what's happening is the psychedelics have been shown from the 1940s, so LSD and psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms, they've been shown to be extremely beneficial with helping with some mental health conditions. Now, it has to be done in a controlled environment with a doctor and a therapist and that kind of thing. But the benefits that they saw back then, even in the 40s and 50s, was unbelievable in helping with depression, anxiety, all these different things, PTSD. And what happened was similar PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Oh, okay. So a lot of things like the veterans have from seeing their mates getting blown up and
what you've got done.
Oh, will you shut up, you idiot?
And so what happened over in the States is LSD and these drugs took a similar path to what cannabis did, in that they were being used by the free-spirited people, I guess, who were against
hang on,
war.
Can I ask a question there? Did the CIA...
CIA?
Yeah, the CIA had it. They had LSD.
They were experimenting. That's
Yep.
what I got out of this.
Yep.
And did they let it go in, say, San Francisco to see what effect it would have?
No.
And it took off, and
Yeah.
then they said, this is getting out of control. Nixon comes in and says, we're now banning it.
Sort of. So what happened was the CIA were using it on criminals, to see if they could alter their minds and recalibrate their minds to not be, offenders and that kind of thing.
Rehabilitate.
It didn't really have that much success. But one of the main guys, the scientist who was doing the research, called his surname was Leary. He actually just saw the benefit of it, and he took it to the streets and said this drug should be available to everyone. It opens your mind.
Right.
And then he gave it out, and then right through San Francisco and all those sort of so-called hippie areas.
Yes.
The Nixon government, because all these people were protesting against war, and they were using LSD and cannabis, and so he couldn't fine people for protesting, but what he did was fine them for using these drugs. Oh. So that's where the whole thing got associated with cannabis and LSD and all these things with the dropout movement, is because of back then.
Just as a segue, Don, to the CIA, do you realise that they have just discovered that the CIA were responsible for murdering JFK?
Hang on. Well, this is a big statement.
In the files that have been embargoed for 50 or 60 years that have just been released, the CIA murdered JFK. They organised his death.
Boy.
Wow.
That's pretty big.
This is a big... Hang on,
and
Johnny.
every head of the CIA who is questioned about it never takes the question or never gives an answer, because they know that what I just said then, I just didn't say it. Do you think I would just say that? That is a fact, that the CIA murdered JFK for whatever reason. Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby, the two people, Harvey Oswald shot him and Jack Ruby shot Oswald. Complete setups, and the CIA are responsible for murdering JFK. Now, so that's just as a byproduct, just a segue to...
It's got nothing to do with psychedelic
No, but it's
drugs.
got... You mentioned the CIA, and it just came into my mind, that, Don.
So,
word association.
Doc,
Yes.
how far down the track are we with the LSD for medical...
So the main one we're looking at the moment is psilocybin, which is from mushrooms.
Is that part of LSD?
No, LSD is a synthetic molecule that was actually found by mistake by Albert Hofmann in Switzerland.
That's right.
In the 40s. So he actually was looking for another molecule and spilt some of the molecule onto his hand and rubbed his eye, and the LSD went into his eye and absorbed into his blood, and he rode his bicycle home, and there's a famous thing called Bicycle Day, where he rode the bicycle home and had the most amazing experience of his life on this bicycle, because he had acid, he had LSD. Yeah.
Really?
So that's where it got started. So from then...
What, he used to rub the plums up against the saddle or something, did he, or what?
No,
because he was on LSD.
Jeez, you can't have an intelligent conversation with you. Geez, your limited intelligence.
So with LSD, it changes your perception of things, opens up different pathways in your mind, these type of things.
Did you hear the pig?
Yes, over there. And... So there was lots of research done, and as you saw on that documentary, was that the one how to change your mind?
Mate,
yeah,
on Netflix. I do a flick.
Okay.
On it's. I think it's Netflix.
I recommend anyone watch that.
I really have. It went for 40 an hour or so, but there's a number of episodes. I'm only into one.
Yep.
And there is mushrooms coming.
Yeah, mushrooms
the
next one, and MDMA is next. Yeah, MDMA.
So I'm going to go through the whole lot.
So before we just make this a complete session on marijuana oil or plant-based.
Yes.
Just interjecting. You will think I'm making this up, but I'm not. You might remember, Don, that we had we spoke to a woman from America, from Los Angeles, who Lana, was it? Lana, someone?
Hang on, what did she
do? Who is
the
man whisperer.
Horse?
Oh, Jesus.
Fuck.
Man
We've
whisperer.
done so many guests.
The man whisperer.
The woman I don't remember. I'm looking for tomorrow.
He'll remember when you mentioned that thing.
From Los Angeles, the man whisperer. Remember
so what's the point? What's your point?
Well, she said, amongst other things, that when she man whispered her friends or her clients on FaceTime or Zoom.
Whispered?
What? She was a man whisperer. She was trying to tell people how to get men to get onto women. You please tell me you don't remember. You remember that conversation we had 2 weeks ago with her in
We've had
America.
So many exciting guests, they just morph into one.
Oh, jeez. So anyhow, she said, I asked her, did she experiment and tell her clients to experiment with sex toys? Do you remember that? And I asked her what was her sex toy of choice, and she said quite seriously and with a straight face, well,
gerbil.
She said, not a gerbil. She said it was an anal plug, a butt plug, thing you stick up your bottom. And I remember saying to her, what do you do? That you just walk around all day? Oh, no, she's not all day. She said, but only when I feel in the mood. So I'm only bringing this up to give you a bit of a background on what I'm about to say.
To the doc.
I was here that day, so yes.
Yeah, well, of course you would. Do you remember the conversation?
I remember the conversation.
How could he
clearly.
not remember that?
Don't know.
Thank you, Doc. I forgot you were here. So here's the logical extension of it.
What's that got to do with the doc?
That's it. Just read that.
Do you fucking believe this? Is he fucked or not?
He's had too many
So
coffees today.
I was giving you some background. So here, to exemplify or to
Amplify.
Yeah, to stress the point. A woman says a woman says that the ashes of her dead boyfriend she put into her favourite boyfriend's sex toy, which was a butt plug. So every time she inserts the butt plug up her bottom, the ashes of her boyfriend is in the butt plug, and that's how she enjoys and memory. That's how she celebrates the memory of a boyfriend, because she's got his ashes up her ass, Don, because it's her sex toy of choice.
We've got the doctor in here talking, and you've gone off on some perverted fucking.
This is amazing radio.
It's unbelievable.
You were talking about.
Denigrated this interview with the doc.
I said to the doc, I just said, Don, in case you think we're doing a whole segment on marijuana oil or plant-based nutrition, we'll intersperse this with sounds like an advertorial we're doing with him. I'm just saying this woman,
about his haircut
this woman put the boyfriend's ashes into a butt plug, and every time she enjoys sex with, I presume, someone else now, or just walked around, he is in her. He is in her ought. Which I thought was and it's got Forever Frank on it on the silver.
You've got to get
Forever Frank.
You've got to get a life instead of sitting in that bloody unit of yours by yourself. You've got to get a life.
Now, Doc, I want to ask you this. We have a number of people say to us it's pretty expensive, the marijuana oil, and I call it the marijuana oil, and I think it's. 200, whatever it is, and I worked out because you told me how much it was, and a vial or a file of it, a vial,
bottle. Why didn't you just call it a bottle?
Oh well, all right, a bottle. A bottle of it lasts for about 6 weeks if you take the prescribed way, and if you divide the 6 weeks into...
You're going to struggle here.
No, I'm not going to struggle because I've done this because I wanted to have an answer for people who say it's pretty expensive. Well, it works out if you divide the amount of oil that you have and the amount of a solution you take on a daily basis, it works out to just under $5 a day, which is a cup of coffee. And that is at the extreme level that you would take. So if you think your health, I'm only saying this, the doc's not saying this necessarily, if you think your health is worth just under the price of a cup of coffee a day, then it puts it into perspective. It's all relative about what you think is expensive. Is that a reasonable thing to say, Doc?
Yep. So I worked out a calculation the other day that on average, my patients to be on the plant-based medicine, they are paying anywhere between $1.50 and $3.50 a day. For someone, $5 a day is at the extreme. They're using quite a large amount, but most people between $1.50 and $3 a day. The unfortunate thing is you've got
that out too. Well, we must have been thinking.
Someone's worked it out for you.
I just worked it out.
You couldn't have possibly worked it out.
I just did it for him, Don.
Don, if it's I worked out 6 weeks.
No, you couldn't have. Someone's helped you. You're a dummy.
I gave him a hand.
So that was the first thing about the cost, and I was trying to say that to someone. Now,
Don thinks it's expensive, don't you?
I want you to tell me about the person, and I've cleared this with this person's father, and he is quite happy for me to mention her name, which I've actually forgotten, but you'll probably know her.
She's not a patient of mine, but I'll happily talk about it.
I didn't say she was a patient of yours. this was the other application for the use of this
Yes.
plant-based product, which I call marijuana oil. This woman is a young girl, had Tourette's, which, if you know what that is.
Tourette's, explosive outbursts, tics,
that's right.
violence. Yep.
And I cleared this with the father. The father said he is quite relaxed about us speaking about her daughter, because taking the plant-based marijuana oil cured her of Tourette's. Now,
Really?
Tell me about that, Doc, please, because you would know that story, would you not?
Yeah, I've heard of that. There's many stories like that with Tourette's
Is
and
there?
epilepsy and things like that. Yeah. So, what happens when you've got a condition like Tourette's or epilepsy? It comes down to a basic part of the brain that fires off for no reason. So you've got your brain's full of nerves, and then when these get activated and fire, they then send a signal off to do something. So with epilepsy, it's a signal application in the brain. It fires off, sets all these signals off, and then the brain's overwhelmed and they just go into a seizure. With Tourette's, similar thing, a certain part of the brain fires off, and then that causes them to shout obscenities, hit whoever they love, hit themselves, do all these different things. And so what cannabis products can do is they dial down the nerve, what we call activation point. So they sort of settle that down. So when a signal comes from one part, it doesn't actually progress on further, because the cannabis oil helps it to dull down that signal. Okay, so essentially it's no longer firing rapidly and setting off all these signals. It's all dulled down and gets back into a state of balance.
That's if people
Yep.
haven't got, like, I've spoken about epilepsy with a surgeon, but a lot of epilepsy is induced by alcohol, drugs or medications you're on as well. So you'd have to have a very clean system for the marijuana oil. It couldn't counter, prescribed drugs or alcohol or lack of sleep, for example, which is also a cause of epilepsy. Is that right, Doc?
Yeah, so those do definitely lower. So our nerves have a point called the action potential point, where it comes down to the the chemicals within the cells and that kind of thing. And at a certain point, when they reach this thing, they fire off and they'll send a signal off. So things like alcohol, low sleep, that kind of thing, they lower the point that the nerves will fire, so it doesn't take as much of a stimulus to fire off those nerves. What cannabis does is realigns that activation point back up
But
higher.
what I'm saying is that epilepsy, there's many causes of epilepsy. That's what I'm trying to get at. And your body would have to be clean for marijuana oil to work.
Yeah, if you've
got drugs or alcohol or lack of sleep, the marijuana oil is not going to work.
No,
You've got to get off the drugs and get...
To put context to the thing I just mentioned, the girl's name was Georgia.
Georgia, that's right. Yep.
And her father, Clint, said he was quite happy for us to speak about Georgia, who has been cured of that insidious complaint called Tourette's. And it did wonders for her. So that's the other benefit, if you like. We're saying that. The doc's not necessarily saying that. The other benefit of it, Don. My friend, who you know well, was having trouble sleeping, and he got onto the THC. I gave him the THC that I had, and he said he couldn't sleep and he's restless, and he took it and said it was just fantastic. So that's another...
I take that THC. Doc, I'm a little bit hungover the next day. Is that a result of that?
It can be, a little bit drowsy next day. But usually what you need is if you to snap it, because you're on CBD as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
So when CBD will counteract and dull down the effect of THC. So when you have your...
Oh, hang on. So it dulls...
Yep. So CBD will dull THC. So that's how, if someone needs benefit with THC, but you don't want them to be essentially stoned for the day, you can load them up with CBD and have on board THC, and they won't be inebriated or intoxicated. So that's how my nursing home patients, the oldies that are in bed in pain, they need a little bit of THC on board for bone pain, that kind of thing. They're not in bed, stoned all day eating a bag of chips. They are actually, I can load them up with CBD and they can still do their normal activities. So when you have your CBD in the morning, that should deactivate the THC. And also something really good is if you actually walk outside and get sunlight on your face, that turns off your circadian rhythm, dials down your melatonin, and switches off that THC and will switch you into daytime mode.
Oh, shit. Jeez, this is heavy, kid.
So
it's Oh, shit.
And
Okay.
before you say this has got nothing to do with what the doc's about, I'm just acknowledging that now. I want to ask you both a question.
Sure.
I don't know if you watched the World Cup soccer final. I don't know if I watched it live at 3 o'clock in the
I haven't
morning.
yet. I've got it recorded. I've got to watch it.
I can tell you who won.
I know who won.
I want to ask you this, Don. Do you think there is more pressure in sport? There's no answer to this, but it's your opinion and yours, Doc. Do you think there's more pressure in sport than a golfer having to put a 10-foot putt in to win the Masters, an AFL footballer having to kick a 45-metre goal on a 45-degree angle to win a grand final, a tennis player at Wimbledon having to save match point and go on and win the tournament, or a penalty shootout to kick a goal to win the World Cup soccer final? What do you think is more pressure if you could...
They're all the same.
Well, there's no answer to this, so if that's your opinion,
Yeah,
that's
no,
good.
they're all the same.
Well, yes. What about you, Doc?
Yeah, I would say that the pressure on that person at that time individually is the same, but in terms of the amount of people that putting pressure on that person, no doubt the World Cup would be the one that has the most amount of followers. So there would be the most amount of supporters watching that.
The other thing, there is no such thing as pressure in this word, something we create in our own mind.
And then what would you call that? Pressure.
Well, I would call it confidence in your ability to execute.
Well, that's pressure to have
No.
confidence.
Pressure is something you create.
Well, you just said you created in your own mind.
Yes, if you're not confident.
Well, if you're not confident about, would you be confident, Don, I'm saying, if you were 45 metres out and a 45-degree angle in a grand final, you're 5 points down, if you kick the goal, would you say you'd be confident to kick it?
No.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. That's right. And no one would be. They'd have that much pressure and anxiety. And I'm saying, I agree. Incidentally, Don, there's no answer to this question, so I'm not criticising your answer, of course. But I agree with the doc. To stand in front of 2 billion people, because it's the biggest sporting event in the world by far, the World Cup soccer.
Oh, come on. It's no different. 2 billion to 30,000. No difference.
It's the biggest sporting event in the world.
Did you see the footage of those people celebrating in Argentina afterwards? Have you seen that?
Fantastic.
Unbelievable.
It's just simply fantastic.
We'll just get on to Melbourne victory and Melbourne City here.
But hang on, just before we leave the World Cup, and I advocated this through the World Cup, and it came out in the paper today that Graham Arnold, somebody has said he's the best manager at the World Cup. I believe, and I said this through the World Cup, there is undue pressure and unwarranted pressure put on managers.
Pressure. I thought you said there was no such thing.
Oh, scrutiny.
Oh, I see. You used the word pressure, Don.
No,
Sorry about that. Oh, yeah, I thought you said pressure.
Oh, geez, you're an idiot. Scrutiny put on managers. Managers have no outcome unless they're very, very bad at... But I don't believe there's any more scrutiny put on. There's no other coaches in the world that are scrutinised more than soccer.
In days gone by, Don, you had helmet scrutiny. Helmet scrutiny you had, if you don't want to call it pressure. Helmet pressure, Don, you could blow the top off a canister from 20 paces. You'd blow the front of your tweeds out. Now, Don, I'm asking you this.
So
Do you
I
not
just
think-
said about Graham Arnold, this didn't even register with you and straight
Yeah,
over
it did, because you were trying to divert the word pressure into scrutiny. Pressure is what it's about. Now, Don.
Doc, do you follow the soccer?
I don't mind it. Yeah, I'll watch it.
Do you think that the managers are under more scrutiny than any other sport?
They are, but it's because of the pay packet they're on as well. They deserve to be under more scrutiny, I think, with the amount of pay packet.
But they don't really control the outcome of the game.
No, yeah, well they do. The same as I guess any coach is not on the court doing, a coach of basketball.
But I watched Australia, for example, Australia, pathetic in the first game in the World Cup, but they then started to put the opposition, which is not hard to do, and I don't know why they didn't do it, but they were running to each player and putting real pressure on the opposition.
Pressure.
Shut up, will you?
You said there was no such thing.
Will you? I'm trying to have a conversation. It is hard to have a conversation with you. Well, in fact, you don't even. It's just grunts I get from you. From Doctor, I'm getting something. Australia really put the pressure by running to the opposition, and Argentina were just starting to fumble, so the players lifted themselves. Now, You know, what's that got to do with the coach? I
I
suppose
reckon
the coach could point it out,
He
but the
probably
players
pointed
have
out
got
at
to
half time or
execute.
something. Yeah.
It's hard to believe it could be that simple. It's like any coach of any AFL. We've had this conversation. Once the players hit the ground, there's very little a coach can do. It's getting them to the line in the first place. Now, Don, I want to ask you. You don't think World Cup soccer is the biggest sporting event on the planet?
Didn't say that.
Didn't he say that?
Don't know.
I said the World Cup soccer is the biggest sporting event in the world. Do you not agree with that? There's 2 billion people riding
What about
on
the
whether
Olympics?
What?
Olympics?
It'd blow the Olympics off the map, the World Cup soccer. It would. That's my opinion, Don. It can't be right
What
or wrong.
about short course swimming that happened in Melbourne over the weekend? World Championships.
Bigger than the World Cup soccer.
Did you watch it?
I missed it, Don, because I didn't
You
actually
know,
realise it was the biggest sporting event
Well,
in the
you
world.
should be aware of it because our money went into it, our taxes went into it.
Like the
Victorian
netball.
government, yeah, like the netball, our taxes went into paying for that.
And what else? Our taxes went into paying for something
Short
else.
course swimming. Did you watch
just
it?
recently. What did we do? We funded something. What do we fund, Doc? We shored up. Oh, what's his name at the singing? What's his name?
yes,
Billy Joel.
Billy Joel.
Yeah, we paid for that as
God.
well. Yes, can you fucking believe it?
And we're $180 million in debt,
Yeah,
$1 billion
and
in debt.
we've tipped in
200, and we just keep spending.
We've tipped in for
We're like
Billy
legless
Joel.
men.
Christ, it is staggering, Don. Speaking of that, Don, do you know the Dandenong City Council defending the iCook food saga have spent $1 million in legal fees? This is the taxpayers of Dandenong.
No, that'd be the ratepayers of Dandenong.
Oh, yeah, now they're ratepayers. I stand corrected. It's cost them $1 million to defend the corrupt and dishonest policy that got iCook Foods out of business. It's cost them $1 million in legal fees. Can you believe it?
Well, my rates have gone up 10% in the last year, and all I get is the rubbish picked up every 6 weeks. That's the only council thing I get.
And do you know the police under Shane Patton didn't interview the former CEO John Benny, whatever his name is?
Hang on, who's he, the CEO of Dandenong?
Yes, and they didn't interview Brett Sutton.
What?
They didn't interview either of those two.
Yeah, but he's got to get his job. He's got a contract, and he's got to get his job. He's got to
I'm
stay
just
and
saying,
work.
did you realise that they didn't interview those 2 prime people when they were trying to work out a verdict as to whether it was right or wrong? No. Could you have any more corrupt and dishonest and contrived decision made to get a free enterprise company out of business, and hopefully everyone thinking it'll be swept under the carpet? But it's going on and on and on.
Just on the police, not that topic, but topic with medicinal cannabis. I work right next to the Paran police shop in Malvern, and when I started there, I went straight across to them and said, "Fellas, just so you know what I'm doing next door." And I was speaking to one of the senior sort of old constables there, and he straight away said, "Fantastic! As soon as I retire, I'm coming to see you," because the police and our first responders are the ones who would actually benefit the most from the use of cannabis and also potentially psychedelics as well, because the amount of trauma that they're exposed to. So THC suppresses those vivid flashbacks and things like that. So that's why I use it for a lot of my veterans who, when they close their eyes, they're back in the battlefield and seeing their mates blow up and that kind of thing.
Shit,
and THC suppresses that. And now you've got these poor police that have to monitor and charge people for using this when they're actually the ones that would benefit the most and would actually keep them in work longer and make it more enjoyable if they were able to use this. So, if someone to have a little bit like you do, a bit of THC at night time before you go to sleep, the next day you're okay. You might be a little grog, but you're fine to work, and it would actually help our defence force and our police if we had it. But it's just silly. They've got to police it. And do you know why? Did I tell you why that the drug test was actually brought into driving? I think I said that the other time. It was actually to catch people using drugs, and then they would ask them who they got it from. That's why drug tests were brought in back in the day, to catch people dealing cannabis and this kind of thing. It wasn't to test for inebriation. So, yeah, there we go.
Now, Don, we're going...
Just going on
Yes,
from there.
go on, please.
We've just had a tragedy in Queensland, 4 police officers. Do you know in America, there's 2 police shot on average every day in America? Now, in Australia, you know, and it's sad that's what's happened. But aren't we lucky that we live in Australia? Okay, it's unfortunate but in America, 2 police die
because half
every
the
day.
political people in America say defund the police and that they go out and kill unwarrantedly black people on a daily basis, which is an absolute lie
you've got to
and a
bring it
hoax promulgated by Black Lives Matter, who are a disgraceful
you go off on a tangent.
terrorist
you just
organisation.
You've got to put a
No, well,
bloody
that's the reason.
Bullshit.
That's the reason that they do, Don. That's the reason, because the
You are hopeless.
you have no idea what you're talking about, Don. They ramp up a dislike about the police because they think they go out erroneously murdering black
just made a
people.
statement. It's sad,
and that's why. That's why they do it. It's promoted. It's promoted by BLM and their like, and Antifa. You have no idea what you're talking about. You bring topics to this thing, and it's nothing going on in the back of your brain because you're not adverse. You're not educated about it because you just sit down at Mornington tampering around with your horses. And that is what I said is factual. Now, this is factual as well. This is for people trying to say that the COVID vaccinations have been fantastic and they cure everything. Did you know that a doctor and people are putting out the fact now that if you're unvaccinated, you are the main cause of car accidents in the United States? Now, you can't believe people put that stuff out, but this is to try and brainwash you into doing something you don't want to do, Don. And that business I mentioned about the police officers being shot is an absolute fact if you like to research it, because most of the things I speak about here
It is a fact that 2 are getting,
researched.
but for the reason, I think you're just going out on your own.
No, that is the reason, Don. That's the reason. They ramp up against the rhetoric that is said about them, and they want to defund the police. And yet the first people to call the police when they're under pressure are the people who want them defunded. Now, we're coming back, Don, with a man that you asked me to ring, and we're going to speak to him about a topic that you think is fascinating. I hope I find it fascinating, because you're going to lead the interview.
That's right, and you really got out of your comfort zone because you couldn't control the whole segment.
What segment?
You are a control
What
freak,
segment?
and
What
I
segment?
made a suggestion, and because you couldn't control the rhetoric or the direction or whatever else, you felt uncomfortable.
Don.
But I am very comfortable with the next guest we've got, because it's a passion of mine.
Don,
History.
so much into my non-comfort zone is that I rang this man and got him to come in.
Because I've got to use psychology with you.
Oh, Don, do you know?
Doc, do you want to enjoy? Anyway, you can sit.
I've said this before, Doc. Don is not smart enough to be half smart. You've got to reasonably be smart and also to have some sort of wit or element of humour in you. He's got nothing. He is like speaking to a stonefish. Now that is it, Don.
Hang on, before we go, I come bearing this.
You're in this too. You're
I come
gonna
bearing
speak to
gifts.
this man.
What do you got?
Here you go. You gave me one of the red "You Cannot Be Serious" hats, which you rightly saw me wearing at the
your
football.
wife has commandeered that hat
at the
and it
football
looks
signing
really
autographs.
very nice on your wife.
Did she send you that photo?
She's batting. You are batting above your average, Doc. I don't know what you've got.
I had to pay for the hat I gave.
Beg your pardon?
From Mick
He gave me a hat.
Menswear.
Yeah.
Go
Gave
on.
me a hat and I was wearing it at the football.
you're
When you
giving
saw
us
me
hats?
signing autographs, you can have a grey one or a white one from Herbal Health Clinics.
Give us a look at it, mate.
There you go. And I also bought you some.
Can we put that up? We're getting a collection over there. We've got. Can I thank somebody for my whiskey for my birthday? Can I?
Into the microphone, yeah.
Sherbra. That is very nice. I haven't met Sherbra. She must be a very, very nice young lady. But thank you very much for that gift that's sitting on the shelf over there, as this hat will. We've got quite a collection behind us.
Sherbra, name is.
Thank you.
I also bought you some non-alcoholic beers, which are fantastic. Remember when we went to that conference and we had a non-alcoholic
Yes.
stout and it was quite good?
It was
So
nice.
these, yeah. So I don't drink alcohol. So
Anyhow,
non-alcoholic
right.
beers are fantastic. They're really good
Anyhow,
What do you drink them for if they're not alcoholic?
to enjoy the taste of beer.
the
And
doc, Don, the doc, you and I are coming back after this to speak to your guest. Right? So stand by.